This is my lipstick plant, and look, it's flowering. This gal has actually been flowering all summer long. Yay for me! But it wasn't always this way. No. Me and this plant have had a dark history, and to be honest, it was all my fault. I just wasn't giving her the things she needed, so she decided to show me that by not giving me flowers. This went on for at least a year too. A year of her sitting there with bushy growth and no flowers, while I watched other YouTubers' lipstick plants flourishing. Sound familiar? Well, like me, you just need to know a few simple things to make it happy, so they can send out these rather phallic looking flowers all summer long. Seriously, look at those blooms. Remind you of anything? Most people see a little lipstick poking through, which is where the nickname comes from, of course, but I see a completely different thing entirely. I guess I'm a bit childish though. So, the lipstick plant, otherwise known as Aeschynanthus. I'm not great with scientific names, okay? Don't judge me. Anyway, it's a plant that flowers all summer long when in rude health. And I mean that. Mine started flowering around May and hasn't stopped since. It's late August as I'm filming this. That's not me flexing either, just something to target. And look, you can normally see her sat behind me in all my videos. Right there. But don't be fooled though, this isn't where she normally lives. Nope, I just move her to this spot every time I dress up my room and make it all pretty to make a YouTube video. Oh, the dedication of doing that every single time. If she did live here, which is about 3 meters from the window, then she wouldn't do anything. Nothing. Nada. Niente. Okay, you get the idea. She'd just sit there with a cob on. To achieve a blooming lipstick plant, the number one thing you must get right above everything else is light. Let there be light and all that. It's pretty obvious really, but because I'm not the quickest fungus gnat in the room, it took me ages to figure this out. I kept her miles away from the window. She didn't like it. Quel surprise. I moved her nearer to the window and hey presto, the lipstick started to come. But Mr. Sheffield, how much light is the right light? And won't it burn if I let it sit in the sun all day? Great questions, you'll go far, young apprentice. The right light is medium light at the very least. But what the bejesus is medium light, you ask? It's a spot in your home where the plant gets a decent view of the sky. Simples. If it can see a large chunk of the sky, like mine can, hanging in this spot in front of my dining room window, you're in a good spot. If it can't see the sky, because there's things like walls, a ceiling, trees, bushes, buildings, hedges, planes, trains, automobiles, etc. in the way, then it's not getting enough of the good stuff. Light, that is. Compare the spot where she is now to where I used to keep her, and you can see the difference. No wonder she was so miserable. Sorry, pal. Now, direct sunlight. This spot faces east, plus she's been forced to live in a climate where it rains for more than a third of the year. Yep, I looked that up, which means she's not getting blasted by a hot sun all the time. Wishful thinking, I know. So she gets direct sun until about 10 AM and it just laps it up. It does depend how hot your climate is, but yours should be able to handle some early morning sun at least. Just keep an eye on her if you do decide to uproot her though. She really won't like you if you leave her to burn without protection. You're looking for the obvious telltale signs like crispy brown leaves, yellowing, red skin and blisters, and a general look like she's been through the ringer. Not the red skin and blisters. Now, what do you do if you haven't got a nice big window that faces in the right direction? That's east, south or west for us northern hemisphericalers. You follow my favourite affiliate link in the description down below and get yourself a Sansi grow light with a 15% discount of course. Too much of a hard sell? Moving on. No decent light from either a sun or a grow light, you just have to settle for a rather boring plant with just green leaves, I'm afraid. Getting the light right for our little green friends is one of the topics I cover in my online houseplant SOS course that you can join by following the link in the description. Honestly, it's great and you'll learn tons. I guess you're thinking I would say that, but look, it's got glowing reviews since its launch. Check it out. When you do finally get your lipstick plant cooking on gas and she started to send out those rather odd looking flowers, you've got to make sure you cut them off. Don't spit your Weetabix out in panic. I don't mean when they're fresh and erect. No, I mean when they're coming to the end of their life. Just pluck them off, just like you deadhead a rose bush in the garden or balcony to get them to recycle their blooms. We should do the exact same thing here. It sends a signal to the plant to produce more flowers. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's because the plant wants to procreate, so by cutting the flowers off before they go to seed, it makes the plant panic and produce more flowers. Sounds cruel in a way. You'll know when the flower is ready to be picked off because it will go a deep red and start to turn wrinkly. So that's the pruning of the flowers. What about pruning of the foliage? What if you have a plant that looks like it's been dragged through a hedge backwards? Now, this knowledge bomb I'm about to drop is absolutely crucial, so shut up the kids for a minute and listen up. The flowers on this gal develop at the tips of the new stems. Why is that so important? Because if you prune the stems in spring, just as it's getting ready to reward you with blooms, you're essentially cutting them off before they've had a chance to come out. Yes, timing of the prune is essential and best left until early winter when it's finished doing its business. It's flowering business. This way you can cut off all the foliage you like, and then come spring it will push out new foliage from which the blooms will come. You're welcome. And it is a great idea to give it a tidy up because the stems can get pretty lanky and untidy. Focus on stems and leaves that are dying back or look unsightly and then work on the shape after. This way you're limiting the chance of certain little buggers jumping aboard and wrecking havoc. Why do they exist, eh? Whoa, where do you think you're going with those? Not the bin, I hope. You really are a wasteful so-and-so, aren't you? You can make new life with those, you know. Yes, new plants. We need all the plants we can get on this planet after all. Look, grab a stem piece that isn't dying or diseased. Try to remember which way is top and which way is bottom, which is easier said than done of course, and remove the lower leaves. Stick it in a glass of water and place it somewhere bright and voila! You'll have roots in a few weeks. Pot them up and watch them flourish into baby lipsticks and enjoy the enormous sense of pride that'll wash all over you. Now, watering. What do we need to get right about watering? Honestly, it's pretty simple, unlike a lot of its needy neighbours. It's really not that fussy when it comes to water. The main thing is to not keep the soil wet for too long. All that means basically is to let the soil dry out fully before watering again. They're not keen on having constantly wet feet, and you can't blame them really. Would you like to have wet feet all your life? The wrinkles will be a nightmare. Well, for them, it's not the wrinkles that are the issue, but good old root rot. Or should I say, bad old root rot. I do tend to forget about mine because she's not really in my eye line when I'm watering her friends. She doesn't seem to mind too much, thankfully. She might droop a bit, but as soon as I give her a drink, she perks right up again. If you do leave it too long, some of her stems will probably go crispy and you'll have to prune them out. Not the end of the world. They grow back. They always grow back. So how can you tell when the soil is dry? You whip out Mr. Sheffield's second favourite affiliate link, the moisture meter, and probe away. Amazon store linked in the description. I've really got to stop referring to myself in the third person, it's really quite unbecoming. Mrs. Lipstick is one of the few plants in my home that I don't bottom water, but that's not really a choice to be honest. I always recommend bottom watering. In fact, I'll leave a link to a video all about it in the top right corner right now. Anyway, she came in this rather delightful looking pot from the nursery and I've not bothered to change her since. Apparently you can take the bottom off these, but I've not been able to work out how. So I just take her over to my sink and pour half a gallon of water into the pot and let it all drain out. This is best practice. Remember, overwatering is about frequency of watering rather than quantity. You can't give it too much when you do come to water. Alright then, we're flying through these tips, aren't we? What's next? Ah yes, fertilising. Here's another next level tip for you. Start fertilising early. And by early, I mean early in the season. Now, you won't be fertilising in the winter because there's no real need to, unless it's significantly growing, but towards the end of winter, you want to start thinking about feeding this gal, more so than your other plants. It just sets it up nicely for the blooming season ahead and allows the plant to get all its ducks in a row. Fertilising doesn't necessarily make a plant flower, that's not how it works. Think of it like providing a chef with great ingredients and a decent kitchen. While it doesn't directly create the delicious meal, it equips the chef with the essential elements to craft a masterpiece. And once you've started, don't stop till it gets enough. I like to add a diluted amount of feed to every water I give so that I'm not losing track of when I last fertilised and all that, and now I do this for all of my plants. I'm using Houseplant Focus, which is a natural fertiliser, so the risk of fertiliser root burn is less than if you're using the Devil's Son Miracle Grow. Not really, Miracle Grow is fine. It's just got a bad rep for being synthetic, but I used to use it and it did seem fine. I just changed to Focus to see if I can get better results and the jury's still out on that one. Anywho, the instructions on the bottle says to feed every 2 weeks, so instead of doing a full dose, I use half every time I water and no more confusion. Hopefully that's the right maths, or math if you're across the pond. Now, some redeeming features. Lipstick plants aren't fussy when it comes to soil. As with most plants, keep them in a well-draining mix with perlite etc. and you'll be winning in life. I've recently moved away from compost because my viewers think this is causing my gnat infestation, so I'm using cyber soil at the moment, which is a mix for every type of plant on their website. And look, yet another affiliate link, but most importantly a 10% discount for you too. Redeeming feature number 2, they don't seem particularly fussy about temperature, which is one less thing to worry about I guess. Just avoid the daft things like hanging them off an air conditioning unit and you'll be fine. And humidity doesn't seem to be an issue either, not for me anyway. I live in a fairly damp climate, did I mention that? And this spot it lives in is usually around 70% humidity. Don't sit on a dehumidifier and you'll get great results unsurprisingly. If you were to set up one of those humidity trays for him to sit on, he'd look at you funny and say, well, not sitting on that matey. It really doesn't do anything, even for humidity lovers like Caliphaeas. And for a few other things that plants just wish you'd stop doing, check out the video on the screen right now and don't forget to subscribe.